But occasionally, Democrats have yet another big reason to dump the big guy in 2024. President Biden getting absolutely clobbered by another batch of bad polls that even have his staunchest allies saying it's time to retire, Joe. Former President Donald Trump is trouncing Joe Biden in a head-to-head matchup by a whopping 10 points. And an NBC poll is giving Biden his highest disapproval rating of his presidency. 56% say they disapprove. And that's just the start of Joe's problems.
So really an uphill battle to try to make sure voters don't stay home if you're Democrats.
Yeah, that's it. And the problem for Democrats, too, the lack of enthusiasm about the election. We asked primary voters on the Democratic side, do you want options next year besides Biden? 59% said yes, they do. This is not a normal number for an incumbent.
Democrats and the liberal media are doing their best to spin this mess.
I'm a little tired of it. I'm a little tired of 3 years hearing about how Joe Biden's going to get crushed.
Whatever caveats, whether that is an outlier, that's a tough one to spin. What do you say to the 44% of Americans who say they are worse off now than they were before Biden took office?
We're also getting extraordinary results. More than 13 million jobs created. That's more than any presidential term in American history. And yes, it takes a while for people to feel the full benefits of those results.
You know, I got to tell you, first, Buttigieg saying 13 million, Sandra, aren't most of those from the pandemic that came back? 10 million of them?
I don't even know which part to react to more. But
right.
By the way, AOC now is saying that this is an economy in crisis. Sorry, are you asking me a question?
Yeah, okay. Are the Dems kidding themselves? I mean, right now, they can call this poll an outlier. But I think 4 months ago, the last Washington Post poll had Trump up 7. And now 4 months later, they've got him up 10. Why are they calling these polls outliers?
I don't know. I don't know anything. They're touting Bidenomics as a success when people all over the country don't feel good about their finances. But Martha Raddatz left out one word in that. It was 44% of Americans believe they are worse off financially under this administration. It's the economy, stupid. It's coming back to that. You want to call a contractor or plumber or a carpenter. People aren't going to work right now. They can't fill jobs. So you can tout the unemployment rate, which is historically low, all you want. But if that's not representing the actual labor market in this country right now, then people aren't feeling it, and that's the way they're going to vote. I mentioned AOC. She's calling this economy in crisis. She says that her party is looking at the economy on paper, and that is a problem. Bidenomics, by the way, the Wall Street Journal came up with that as a reference to Biden's policies on the economy, picking and choosing winners by the government, and that has failed in this administration. So owning a description for the economy that is not working is not going to work. I just want to finish off with this. Housing affordability is a huge problem right now. Anybody out there who's looking for a home or looking to sell a home, you're probably feeling this right now. Housing affordability, without getting into the actual numbers, the index has halved since 2020. That is something everyday Americans feel right now, and they're being told they shouldn't feel that way.
You know, Jesse, the economy, 75% of Americans don't think that Biden's doing a good job. Immigration, it's 2/3 are disappointed in him. 74% think his age is a problem. I mean, you didn't even need this poll to match up Trump against Biden, and yet they're like totalitarians. They're like, he's our guy.
Well, because they're stuck with him. Because Kamala's backup. That means they has to be Joe Biden or nobody else. And this was a message from Bezos. This is the Washington Post poll. Remember, Ignatius dropped the first article about how he should resign. That was a CIA nudge. This is Bezos, because Bezos is about to get smacked with an antitrust lawsuit. Biden is going after their monopoly, and that's about to be dropped, I think, this week. And then Biden sided with the people that were trying to unionize. All those Amazon workers, he actually stuck his neck out there. And so he's angry, and inflation's killing Amazon because, you know, they have to have all these delivery trucks use gasoline, and they're driving all over the place, and stuff's more expensive. So if you look at the poll, it's not just Biden's getting slaughtered. It's Trump's doing much better. And if you compare how people looked at Trump after he left in 2020 and how they look at him now, people that voted for Biden are now taking a second look at Trump. Blacks, young Americans, suburban white women. He calls them housewives. We're not allowed to say that, apparently. But Everyone is now taking a second look at Donald Trump, and it's a totally new environment right now.
Okay, Greg, I just want to jump from that, what he's saying. What Jesse's saying is there was a whole group of young people in 2020 where Biden won young people under the age of 35. Now Trump is leading Biden on those young people by 20 points. What changed?
I don't know, maybe sniffing all that hair. Jesse, that was really good. I have to up my game. You know, I think we're watching the machine. The machine is turning on Joe. He's like that really old guy married to the 25-year-old wife who is actually stupping the tennis pro in the next room.
Stupping.
Stupping.
The Dems are the wife, and the tennis pro is Gavin Newsom. That's what's happening. You combine the polling and the gaffing, it feels like we're getting to the bottom of that jar of mayo with Joe. There's nothing left to scrape out with the knife, and you can turn it upside down and you can pat the bottom really hard, but you get nothing but a soiled hand. I think Joe Biden at this point is about as popular with the Democrats as I am. So I think this is it. I think that it's grinding. The machine is turning. They're pushing him out. He has no clue, though.
Stupping.
Yeah, stupping. Yeah. Would you like to just throw something out without asking you a direct question?
So polls capture moments, and you can be guided by polls and instructed by polls. Anyone that says that this poll should not be considered seriously is not on the level.
You mean Karine Jean-Pierre when she said that?
Right, well, I think
so. You don't consider her on the level?
Well, I think we're not being. I didn't see everything she said, but anyone that doesn't consider this serious,
right?
Judge, I think they're just not. You got to take a look at this and say, what more do we need to be doing? What less do we need to be doing, and how do we figure this thing out? There's no doubt we're way early. I remember 4 months ago, everybody thought Ron DeSantis was going to be anointed the Republican nomination and anointed the presidency. He might be, but he's not going to be anointed. He's got a big fight in front of him. Joe Biden says all the time, compare me to the alternative, not the almighty. That may be true, but you got to be better than the alternative because you're losing to the alternative right now. And the numbers show that it's not as much as we want. I said on the show last week, Judge, Gavin Newsom, whatever you think about him, he's a good surrogate. He's youthful. He's smart. He's energetic. He resembles the future, not only of the Democratic Party, but what politics can look like, whether you like him or not. I'm not even sure
Someone got
that
you,
I
Harold.
like. I'm not even sure that I like all of his politics, but what I would do is I would have him out there. I thought we all agreed on what he did last week for Biden was as compelling a presentation on behalf of what the administration has done over the last few years and what more they want to be doing going forward. I think this week, tomorrow, will be a big test for the president. He's gonna join the picket line with the UAW workers. It'll be interesting if he actually delivers a real message about the future of the economy. I've said all along, you can't do this Bidenomics thing and just find yourself on factory floors without laying out what you've done, where you want to take the country, and why you need 4 more years to do that. If you can't do that, you're going to have a hard time. And if you can do it, these polls today, we will look back in a few months and say, you know what? We were able to reverse the trend.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something?
No. What?
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I'm
all
just...
right. Gavin Newsom is in a panic that young Americans are being radicalized by the likes of Joe Rogan.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.